Okay, so first of all, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone who were joined, taking out the time for participating in the session. So today the topic is related to product backlog and sprint backlog. So we will be talking about both the things, considering from what is product till what are the things that we do as part of the sprint backlog. And if any questions, I request you all please to use the chat window. In the interest of time, we will try to answer all the questions in this session itself. And if you feel that there is something that we need to take care out of this session, we will use our WhatsApp group to answer those questions. Okay, so let me start with the first topic of what is product. Okay. So let's before we get into the actual topic of product backlog, we need to really understand what is product and what is product vision roadmap, because all these things are interconnected. So first let's understand what is a product. Product can be anything which is delivering a value, as simple as that. So is that need to be a software? Is that need to be something like this? That need to be something like that? There is no such definition. It can be anything which is delivering a value. That value can solve the existing problem. The value can become a new idea. The value can enhance whatever it is existing. These are the different varieties that a product can enhance. It can be a new product itself, which we call it as NPD, new product development. The other one is which is already existing and we are trying to enhance it. Maybe an update or maybe a new version release, or maybe something that we are trying to boost it up with adding a additional functionality. That is the second option. The third is something, there is a problem that is existing. We need to find a solution for that. So as a part of the solution, we are bringing up a new product. So these are different varieties a product can get into picture. At the end, it is going to solve or satisfy a customer requirement or a client need. That's the whole idea of having a product, by the value that it is going to deliver. So here I have given not any software related picture or something, because we need to make it very simple. Just it's a wristwatch. So wristwatch is something that when I'm going out, I'm wearing a wristwatch. It is delivering a value by showing the current time for me, right? That's the value that a wristwatch is bringing to a user like me. So that is also a product. So anything that is delivering a value and solving a customer requirement is nothing but a product. Now, what's a product vision? So if we make something, there should also be a vision behind it, right? So people say that, what's your career vision, right? So what is all about a vision for a product is, first of all, why that product? What is the need of that product? That's the question we need to ask. And who all are the target audience who are going to be benefited out of that product? If that product is not there, what is the problem? And who all are the people who are going to get benefited? And what is the difference it is going to make? Is that something which is already existing? As I mentioned, it's a new idea, or it's something going to enhance, or it is going to solve a problem? What it is trying to do? What is the variety of benefit that it is going to give to the users? So the product vision should detail out all these things. First of all, why are we coming with that product? Who all are the people who are going to use that product? And what is the benefit it is going to give? So these all things we will document in a product vision. So the product vision document, if you read for any product, we will get to know why are we developing it, who are our intended customers, and what is the change it is going to bring. So that is the clarity we will get. Okay. Next one is a product roadmap. This is a very common term that we would have heard in most of the software development life cycle, especially when we are using agile methodology. So product roadmap is nothing but it gives certain details. It touches upon certain details like goals. Okay, let me put a very simple example. I want to create a product, any product. Okay, I cannot bring everything at one shot, right? It should go step by step. It should have some place where it should stop and okay, these all are the things it's going to deliver at this breakpoint, and then it should move on. Then next breakpoint, what it should deliver, and so on. It will go. It should not be something I'll deliver everything at one shot and develop for next 10 years. No, it cannot be the thing, right? So this product roadmap is something like over a period of time, what is the progress you are going to make, and what is the timeline that you are going to fix for each and every release that you are going to make, and for every release, what is your goal. Let's take one example of WhatsApp, which we all are using right today. So WhatsApp would have made the first release, and what is their roadmap maybe? I'm just telling in a very common scenario, because I'm not sure how the exact roadmap looks like. So I'm just putting from the functionalities, whatever we are using. First product roadmap, the first release may contain only the goal of achieving. It should be a messaging system, just a messaging system. If I save the number of some person A, I should be able to send a message to the person A. That's all. For that, what would have been the time I would have taken? Maybe 6 months is the plan for me to bring that product. So my goal is just to send a message for the contacts who are available in my mobile. Second one is it's going to take 6 months. This is going to be called as version 0.5 or version 1.0. And the progress is something like over a period of time of 6 months, step by step, we are going to bring the models which are going to allow the messaging system from person A to person B and person B to person A. That's all. This is for version 1.0. Version 2.0, I'm going to introduce the call facility as well. So I can make audio call and video call. Initially, it was just a messaging system, just a messenger. Now it has gone to the next level of, it is also allowing people to make calls. For this, another 6 months. It's called as version 2.0. And for this version 2.0, the main goal is to have the calling system also available in addition to the messaging system. So now we know what is version 1.0's goal, timeline, release, and version 2.0's goal, release, and the timeline. So this is how we will make the product roadmap. So product roadmap is going to help all the stakeholders, the product owner, the team, the entire portfolio is getting benefited out of this. The reason being, we are able to see a bigger picture of the product, and next 3 years, what the product milestones are going to be. Next 1 year, what are we trying to achieve? What are our functionalities that we are expecting in the next version? Anything that you want to have a question related to the product, its release, its timeline, product roadmap is going to be one single solution for all these questions. Okay, so now we know what is a product, what's a product vision, and what's a product roadmap. Just try to collect all this information, because next slide is going to talk on everything. Okay. Now, so we know what is a product vision. Always remember what, who, and why. Why are we creating the product? For whom we are creating the product? What is the benefit we are going to get out of the product? This will give you the details about the product vision. Product roadmap, it's going to give the release details, the timeline details, the goals that we are going to achieve in each and every release. Now we know these details. Now comes the product backlog. So now I just want to put one statement here. I have not started directly from product backlog for a reason. The reason is, it's going to be very simple. Whenever we are trying to understand about a product backlog or the related details, whatever we are going to discuss on product backlog, we should first understand certain concepts like what is a product vision, what is a product roadmap. The reason is, product vision is something, it is going to give the details to the product roadmap and the product backlog. Why? What is product vision? It's all talking about what, why, and who, right? So these three things will definitely answer what we are trying to achieve out of that product, because what is the benefit that we are going to get out of the product, who we are trying to catch hold of to get the information or the requirements, and why are we developing the product. All these things will be taken care in product vision. So this product vision is a good piece of information to initiate your product roadmap and product backlog. So that's the reason product vision brings the details to product backlog and product roadmap. In addition, product backlog has all these details now, but it doesn't know when what should go, when is the release should be planned, version 1.0 what should be the thing, version 2.0 what should be the thing. That fair understanding is not mapped. That details are available in our roadmap. So from roadmap, product roadmap information, we are going to share the release details to the product backlog, and map it over there so that, okay, the product backlog items 1, 2, 3 are going to be delivered in version 1.0. Let me make it little simple. We talked about the WhatsApp example, right? So we talked about the roadmap. So for version 1.0, it's going to be the messenger, right? So for the messenger related user stories that will be created in the product backlog, which is also aligned to the product vision. What is our product vision? Why are we making this product? This product is going to serve the purpose of a messenger. So it is aligned to the vision, and it is also aligned to the whatever the details that we have collected in the product roadmap for version 1.0 release. Now comes the product backlog items. So product backlog will be having all the details which are aligned to the product vision, and also get the details of release from the product roadmap, so that anytime we will be able to make a proper decision of when to prioritize what and when to plan it as a part of release mechanism. So this cycle, what we are just now getting to see in our screen, is nothing but our product level detail. So as the name suggests, everything talks about the product, right? Even though the release details are available as a piece in the product roadmap, everything is called as product level details. So a simple thing that everyone want to remember from this diagram is product backlog is something that has all the list of items are aligned to the product vision. In addition to that, it also gets the details of release from the product roadmap. Okay. Now let's go to the next diagram. This diagram is going to get into the next level. So in our previous diagram, we have seen from product vision, we came to a product backlog and a product roadmap. In the next one, we are going to talk about what is going to happen from product backlog. So from product backlog, as you remember in the last slide, we talked about the release details will be available from your product roadmap to the product backlog. If you remember, if you try to recollect your agile management tools, any of the tools that you're using, maybe your Jira or Azure DevOps or whatever the tool that you are using, every related work item, you would have made the release number for which release, or either a label or some tagging you would have done for which release we are targeting this. How are we doing that? Because we got those details from our product roadmap. Because product roadmap is all about the goals, timelines, and the release details over a period of time. Now, this product backlog help us to derive the release plan. Version 1.0, version 2.0, 3.0, 3.1 is all that horizontal line is called as the release level planning. Previous one is called as product level. The previous slide, whatever we have seen, is product level. And this one is all about release level. So in this release, for example, I'm not going to talk about every release because we want to know the whole hierarchy, how it works. So this product backlog items, we will capture as version 1.2, 2.0, 3.0, 3.1, like that. So every version has a specific goal, not a single goal. It may contain multiple goals, but at least it should have a single goal, like we talked about in WhatsApp messaging system. And in the second example, we took the call facility. So like that, you can have a single or multiple goals. So in the first version, okay, we have a release plan, but how to execute at team level? We saw product level, we saw release level. Now we are going to the third level, which is called as team level. So to the team, when they will be getting into picture, they know, okay, there are different sprints. For example, to release the version 1.0, I need 3 sprints. I'm just giving as an example, 3 sprints I need. So every sprint, there should be a sprint backlog, and every sprint backlog will have multiple PBIs. What are called as PBIs? Product backlog items, which we will talk about when we talk about the product backlog in detail. So every sprint backlog will have multiple PBIs, and every single PBI, once the sprint starts, it will be getting into task level, so that the team or the single person or the individual will be able to manage a single task. So 3 levels we have seen. One is the product level, which comprises of your product vision, which brings your product backlog as well your product roadmap. And from the product roadmap, you will get the release details to your product backlog, which you will be tagging or mapping it. And your product backlog, again, getting into the next level, because of the release details it will plan the release level details, which is called as version 1.0, 2.0, that is called as release level. And this release level should be taken to the team, that is called as team level, in the form of sprints. So every sprint, you will have a sprint backlog, which will be the driving factor, and which will get started when your sprint gets started and gets dissolved when your sprint ends, which we will be seeing in our sprint backlog detail. Okay. So this sprint one will be having a sprint backlog. Similar to that, every sprint will have a sprint backlog, which is associated and aligned to a sprint goal or goals. It may have multiple goals or a single goal. And every sprint backlog will have multiple product backlog items. Okay. And every product backlog item, what is a product backlog item? In simple, it's a user story for your, just to refer it. Do not confuse what's that product backlog item. It can be a defect, it can be a pig, it can be a feature. But for team level, what are the items that we will work? Mostly user story, spike, technical depth, and all those things. As of now, remember, it is a user story. So in user story, what you will do as a team in the sprint level, you will create a task and execute it, right? So this is the overall picture. Now, please, anytime if you have any questions, start putting it in the chat window. At the end, we will go through all the questions. Okay. Okay. So now we have seen all these details. Now let's come to the topic of product backlog. Okay. So product backlog are derived from product vision. That now you know completely from the picture that we have seen, right? So product owner knows the vision of the product. So now you know the vision. Now maybe why we came from, what is product vision, everything. Now you are able to correlate, I believe. Try to correlate all these pieces, because that's why I started from there, not from product backlog directly. So now the product owner knows the vision of the product. So they know that why we are creating this product, what is the intended use of this project, who all are our target audience. So with this understanding, product owner connects with people. Who all are those people? Nothing but the target audience, to understand and create your product backlog. How they will create? Product owner, with the help of the product management team, connects with different set of people who all are the real customers or the clients or the end users who are going to use your product in the future, so that they will be able to understand why this product is required. They will be able to share what are the things that they are expecting from the product, and they are also able to tell you if there is any underlying problem for which your product is going to be a solution. So all these things you are going to get from them. That's the reason we generally try to find first the target audience. We won't directly get into, okay, this is what it is and I will start creating the product. No, we should have that vision. Why are we creating it, and for whom it is going to be beneficial? So connect with the right people with the help of interviews, with the help of discussions, with the help of requirement gathering meetings. All these things will be your initial step to start creating your requirements. So these requirements are this is the only way of collecting the requirements? No, this is not the only way. There are many other ways. One is, there is a team called marketing team who will be learning what is happening in the market. They are the people who try to understand, okay, whether the market needs A or the market needs B, or already A is available and what can we do better than A. So they will try to understand those things and come up with the details of what can be the better thing for the product to be in the future. So you got the details from the real people who are going to use your product, and you are also getting the details from your marketing team. So in this way, you are trying to connect with the actual people who are going to give you the best set of requirements. Now it's your job whether it is really aligned to your product vision. I say that I will create a messenger and I should not create a chat system or something other than that. It should be a different, my whole target is to create a simple messenger system, and it should not be like a group chat system. it should be not like a calling facility system, then I should align to what my vision is all about. That's the reason product owner should be very clear whether these requirements, whatever I'm trying to capture, are they aligning to my vision of the product. If we start deviating from that vision, we may end up giving something else what we planned initially for, right? So that's the reason product vision play a major role here. Now we have created all this information and we prepared the set of requirements, and all these requirements will turn into a product backlog item with the help of user stories. Okay, it is not necessary everything should be a user story. It can be different product backlog items. I'll tell what are those. But when we say that we are creating a requirement, we will try to follow a hierarchy, something called as epic. Then from epic we will create feature, and then from feature we will try to create a user story. Why so? We can directly create user story, right? What is the big deal of creating this hierarchy again, bringing up new things? There is a reason for that. One is for maintenance, and another one is for tracking at different levels. Like, as we mentioned, there is something called as product level, release level, and team level, right? So team level, team members are interested to know from the user story point of view. They don't want to every day see the bigger picture. They want to know the bigger picture, but not everyday basis, because their whole focus is on user story and at the sprint level, their execution. When it comes to the next set of people, or there is another set of people who are looking for a product at the next broader level. They want to see it in a little different way. They want to understand, okay, when this feature will be ready. What is a feature? The feature is something like you, for example, the call facility, what we talked in the WhatsApp example, right? So if it is a call facility, the call facility, if I want to implement it, it should implement many user stories, right? It is not like because you have a voice call, you have a video call, you can make a group call also. So if you want to add some more people at later stage, you can still bring them. So there are multiple options to do that. So there will be multiple user stories getting created, and everything will come under one feature. So they will not be interested what is the user story now going on. They want to see a little level bigger picture. So what is the bigger picture all about? The bigger picture is all about whether the voice call feature is done or not, whether video call feature is done or not. The next level people who are at the program level or portfolio level, they are looking for how the product is getting built. They don't want to know what is the user story level status. They don't want to know how the feature is working. They want to know the level of epics. Epic is next level higher topic, where actually it will talk about where are we with this whole messenger system? Where are we with this whole calling facility? So how much percentage we have completed? What are the left out things? That's their interesting point to understand. So at different levels, we have created different hierarchies, one for the benefit of tracking and another one for giving the progress at different level in a bigger picture. Okay. So now all these items which are required to run your product, which are required to create your product, are put under a single placeholder list, which is called as the product backlog. So product backlog is nothing but requirements only, but requirements put in different names like epics, features, and user stories. You know the understanding why there is a hierarchy also. And these all things are aligned to your vision of the product. That's product owner responsibility to ensure that it is not deviating from the vision of the product. Okay, so now we know there is a product backlog. So what is this product backlog should contains or consist of? We almost touched on this point.
Yes, Selvi, can you explain that epic and hierarchy once again? I think Parul wants to have it. Only the hierarchy, yeah.
Yeah, and also, Selvi, I just need an understanding whether there's a difference in feature and user story, or are they actually, they are just similar to each other. So,
okay.
Usually, when we work in a project, we always call it as a feature or a user story. So it's one and the same thing until now.
Okay, yeah, I'll come to that question also. Like
Sure.
in many places, there is a confusion what is a feature and what is a user story. And in some places, even I have used terminologies where there was no user story, which we term it as feature. But whatever the name you call it, you call it a feature or user story, or it can be a epic. One thing you just want to make sure is user story or the lower level item, work item that your team is working is actually at the sprint level. It can be a feature or it can be a user story. There should be a next level item. You cannot actually create directly everything. As I told, the problem is there are people who are monitoring the progress at different level, right? There are people who want to know what is the status of the feature. There are people who want to know what is the status of your epic. Or there are people who wants to know user story. You cannot give same report to everyone. There should be a different reporting for different set of people to understand where we are moving towards. Are we at the right track or not? So one thing is there are some tools. It is all about how you configure in the tool. Let me put it very clear. If you are, instead of using a feature, you can use the terminology called user story. It is all up to your agile management tool, whatever you use, and you configure the terminology. But keep always one hierarchy in your mind so that it will be easy for you to put the right information to the right set of stakeholders. So if you use feature instead of the term called user story, please go ahead and use that. It's not a burning topic, but always remember there should be one more topic above it. You can bypass one level also if you are okay to give the report to your management in such a fashion, then you can still bypass it. Like Parul put the question, we kind of use both feature and user story in a single sprint level or team level. Still you can go ahead and use it. But I believe there is at least one hierarchy above it so that you will not have everything like a child item. There should be one parent item which is holding all these things so that you can say like, what is this module all about, or what is this feature all about? I think in that way we should be clear. That's the whole idea of having these three different sections. Did I answer the question?
Yes, Selvi. Understood.
Just ensure that you have one level, one higher level hierarchy in your hierarchy so that you have a placeholder to hold all these items, and at the same time you are able to give the progress also in such a way where your particular functionality stands. Let me use the word functionality so that it will be easy. Yeah.
Selvi, Shilpa here.
Yeah.
I just have one question. So I think somebody in the group has pinged, right, sometime back that there are some other hierarchies like episode, saga, and theme. So, I mean, have you used or have you heard of these?
Yes, actually, yeah, Shilpa, the reason of these things, let me take to another level and put this point. When you have a program, okay, what is a program? A program is a n number of projects that will be tied together in a program. So when we say there are multiple programs, there will be different set of people who will be participating in that program because you have different project, and different project will have different scrum teams. So it is something like you have at the higher level a program, and then you have project P1, P2, P3, and inside P1 you have team 1, team 2, team 3, and P2 you have team 4, team 5, team 6. So you have a like a very complex hierarchy, right? So here there are people who want to see the progress at different level with the different items. So what we tend to do is we will try to break it into different levels. See, it's all about how you administrate in your agile management tool. There are places, as Parul put the right question, feature and user story we are interchangingly using, which is fine, which is not an issue at all, until and unless we have a higher level, because they may be fine with those two levels itself. But as you put the question now, like I want to make 2-3 levels, but is there a need for that? Are we having a complex structure of program where we want to really break down into different projects and different teams so that we will be able to make it in a better way? Or what is the goal of that? Because sometimes, too much of anything also should create confusion. So we need to be clear, is there a real need of creating that many levels? If there is a reason for that, okay, I need episodes, I need saga, yeah, we can configure it, because all the tools have that option, and you need to create those levels, you need to create the workflow, and then you are good to use that. So the particular systems or the tools are allowing it, but only thing is we need to understand whether we have that level of complexity to use that.
Hi, Selvi.
Yeah, Narinder.
So I have a question. What is the difference between capabilities and Epic? And the second point is where we are putting our NFRs.
Okay, so NFR, there are two ways of capturing, Narinder. One is I personally follow one way of using it. Every user story level, it is good to create what is your NFR part, because what is your user story all about? Your user story is a portion of your requirement. Every requirement has both functional and non-functional part. So when you are creating the user story itself, it's a good option that you try to create what is the non-functional part of that requirement and make that as a discussion point in your backlog refinement meeting, because otherwise it will not be captured. Point number one. Point number two is, until and unless we are not explicitly making that as part of definition of ready, we tend to miss that. So one good option is every user story level, better to capture it and better to use it as part of, okay, what is the non-functional aspect of this particular requirement and how can we use this? When it comes to,
by this mean you're saying that when we are creating a user story, that is giving value to the customer. And first of all, we are writing a description and then acceptance criteria. In the same story, on the third level, we are just mentioning what are the non-functional requirement with the same story, or we create some other task or story and attach with that.
no, not like task or story. You create it as part of your acceptance criteria. This is one of the point.
Okay.
Like what are the non-functional discussions you want to make? Like for example, is there anything that you need to check with what is the maximum number of users at a time the system can allow? That is a non-functional requirement. Let's take a simple example of landing at the dashboard page or the home page after login. At a time, how many people can use the system? That is also a valid testing scenario the tester will be testing. But for that, what we will be doing, if we are not allowing the team or if we are not allowing the product owner to put that point as part of the story, it might get actually missed off. We may not capture that. So if we make that as a practice in our user story level as part of definition of ready, if there is no non-functional part, put it as NA. It's fine. But we are allowing people to capture that as part of user story.
Okay. And what about the capabilities, or is the capability same as Epic?
No, capabilities are not same as Epic. Capabilities is a general term that we use only when we are using the scaled agile framework.
Okay.
So it is not as normal Scrum framework. We will not get into that level. It is also very similar to a level, but it comes in the part of a solution train, not in the release train. It will come in the solution train. Maybe once we talk about SAFe, we will get into detail of what is the difference between Epic and capability. But to make it short, related to capability, it is mainly a focused area in scaled agile in the level of solution train.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, shall we move to the next slide?
Yeah, we can move.
So in general, the product backlog will have many, all these are called as work items. I use the word most of the time work items. Work items can be a user story, defect, spike, technical debt, feature, epic. Most of you know what is all about these things. Let me make it little bit about what is what. User story, if there is a requirement and we want to implement it, or if there is an enhancement we want to implement it, we will make it as a user story, which will follow the 3C model. We already talked in our previous session about user stories, definition of ready and definition of done. You can quickly go through that to know more about user stories as well. And defects is something, if there is a deviation from the expected behavior, we want to capture that as a defect. And when we will be creating defect, when actually we feel it is not a blocker to close the user story, the user story can still go ahead for closure because it is matching with the definition of done. But this defect also should be closed in the future because it is not allowing the expected behavior to happen as it is. It is making the expected behavior into a deviated point. So we are creating a defect, right? Next is a spike. It's a broad topic. We will try to have a separate session on spike. But in a nutshell, you want to take a decision, okay? Like, for example, let me put it in a very general way. I want to travel from here to Chennai, and I have different ways of transmission, right? I can take a flight, I can take a train, I can take a bus, or I can use my car. So anything like that. But I am like confused what to take because there are multiple options available. What is the feasible option? I don't know. So what I will do, this situation will come in our normal software development also. Your team is going to do some implementation and your team is having 2-3 options at their side. One person is telling, hey, this is an optimal solution. Another person is telling, no, this option will work better than that. Third person is telling, no, now this is the latest one. Why can't we try this? So you want to give importance to all the 3 options, but you don't know what is the effort it is going to take. You don't know which solution will work best. You don't know what you want to really implement it because you have n number of solutions. Like I have different options to travel, right? Then what you are going to do is you will create a spike work item. This spike is nothing but you are giving the opportunity for your team members to create a prototype or come up with the spike outcome document at the end of the sprint. It's not necessary you need to spend your entire sprint for your spike evaluation. You can use 5 days only, you can use 3 days only, you can do, because you cannot estimate, right? When we can do estimation, when we are clear with what we are going to work. Here, I don't know what I'm going to implement because I'm just going to evaluate. So I cannot put a straightforward statement and say, hey, another 5 days I need. No, I cannot say that. But you need to set a boundary. Otherwise, it will be like months also I can take, right? I can be keep on evaluating for months. So you need to put a boundary. At the same time, you cannot say that 3 days or 4 days. So what generally we will do, we will use a sprint time, that is 10 working days for a spike to work. It sometimes get well in advance, the result itself. Sometimes at the end, whatever the stage where we are in, we will close that spike. So at the end, what we expect a spike outcome document, which says that, no, rather than with the current COVID situation, better to travel in your own vehicle rather than taking other transport. Okay, that's the option. I'm just giving the example in current situation of transport, but similar way in software also, out of that A, B, C, you would have found that C option is actually much more beneficial. The reason being the consumption of resources is less from the software or the cloud point of view. Or the second one is it is easily implementable without any kind of risk factors. And the third one is it may be an independent item that we don't have any dependency with other teams, which we can only implement. Whereas option A and B, we have a dependency with other teams, then we need to really work on that, or it may create some kind of loopholes in the future. So like this, we came up with a proper solution. What can be taken care? We are not implementing, again, just underline that we are not implementing. We just came up with the evaluation report. Just like I'm not traveling directly. I found the option, okay, car is the best solution for me now. Similar way, option C is the best solution. That is the spike outcome document. So at the end of the sprint, you will be sharing the spike outcome document as part of the sprint review and explaining that this is the solution, which is feasible and optimal solution for this problem, and we will be working. We will much try to explain about spike because it's a very interesting topic and a separate topic altogether, maybe in a separate session. Okay, as of now, it's a decision factor or item you can think of. Okay. Technical depths. Okay. It is not only that we always develop functionalities, requirements, and deliver it. Parallelly, we should also think about, let's take one example. In your application, search functionality is always bringing a lot of defects. And your architect is saying it is actually the time to refactor the code because it is always having problem. One of the other way, if you fix one thing, the other thing is getting broken, something like that. So there is a need of refactoring the code. So this refactoring the code is a technical item. It is not going to give any kind of functionality, or it is not going to develop a new requirement, whereas it is going to enhance technically the option which is already existing. These kind of things come under technical depth. When to use technical depth, how to prioritize it, I will talk when we come to the sprint backlog, because again, it is a very interesting topic to discuss. Okay, so as of now, remember, technical depth is nothing to do with requirement. It is a technical item to clear the gaps, what we have identified. Features and epics we talked about. These are the levels, and it again depends on, please do not stick to that hierarchy. If your project is not so complex, you can remove one level also, and if your project is complex, you can have multiple levels also. Depends on the complexity and the need of your project or the program. Okay. Now the next thing is the product backlog has some kind of characteristics. Okay.
I have a question before proceeding this.
Yeah, Narinder.
Can you go to the previous slide?
Mm-hmm.
So just like a product backlog contain these items, let's say there are the environment, like when we are, our sprint is over, and let's say multiple sprints are over, and we are releasing something to the user environment. So after, let's say, this is a local environment where team test the code, then it moved to integration test environment, then it to end-to-end. And then let's say then business requirement before releasing to user requirement. So we are not going to push it to user org, but we are after end-to-end testing, we move it to business org. So let's say there the business find that there are some gaps. So is that we can say this is a technical data business gaps, and we create the stories of or task related to the gap. How we can handle that?
Okay, this gap is related to a functionality, or what?
Maybe anything, what business feel that, yeah. So initially when the workshops were there, POs joined that, but due to some of the reason they write the user story, but there is a gap. So that we can just the business, when we move the code to the business org, then we find that, yeah, these are the gaps from the business side. So that was not captured initially by the POs or BAs during the workshops.
Okay, that is a requirement missing, or missed the information from the requirement. That will not come under technical depths, but those all are coming under the gaps that we have identified in the requirements, which should be again prioritized, and that should be taken care as part of a separate requirement.
So we can say that we will write the user stories for that gaps.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
We will create again the user stories, because sometimes what happens in the sprint review meeting, when we are actually demoing our working product, there are chances that we may come up with some kind of questions or some kind of additional points or use cases which we have missed to implement. That is a gap in the requirement that we have captured. So that should be taken care as a separate user story, and it should be implemented as a separate user story, how we have taken with the other requirements. And based on the priority, that should be taken, maybe upcoming sprint only we will take, or we can put it in the backlog and we can take it on as per the priority in the order of execution.
Okay. And the second question is, just like when we are talking about the user stories, when we are defining these user stories, let's say there are some dependencies. Okay, so can we contain that? Can we create that dependency in the product backlog, or should we create the dependencies when we move the items to the sprint backlog? So once we're done with the sprint planning and we're done with for the particular sprint, we create the sprint backlog. So related to that story, where we in the refinement session, we found that this is a risk or dependency that we should create in the product backlog, or we should create in the sprint itself.
See, it actually depends on the nature of the dependency. Let's take one dependency. During your backlog refinement meeting, you are identifying that UI UX wireframes are missing for a particular user story. And but your product owner is very comfortable how that UI UX looks like. So he or she is explaining the whole detail to you. So as a team that you are comfortable in estimating. So as such, if you see the outcome of that backlog refinement meeting, which should get the estimate for your work items is done. But actually there is a dependency which is open. The dependency is nothing but talk to the design team and get your UI UX wireframes, which is still missing. For this, what you can do, you can actually create a particular task, because this is not a user story or something. This is going to be owned by either a scrum master or a product owner. So it can be created in the sprint level, and you need to ensure that you are getting to the closure of this work item before the end of the sprint, so that in the upcoming sprint, you don't have any kind of issue in picking this user story as part of your sprint backlog. If this is open, you cannot proceed in picking up this user story, because without UI UX wireframe, team have estimated, but they cannot actually work, right? So you need to pick up this dependency in a very a priority one and keep it as a placeholder. You can create working on dependencies or something as a placeholder in your sprint backlog and create this task inside it and assign it to the scrum master or a product owner. This is one way of handling dependency. Other way is, like for example, your team is going to work. Okay, means your team members are going to work. For example, you need to build a separate environment where your it is not a, it is a dependency for your work, but it is not a functionality delivery, right? It is a dependency. Your environment should be available, but someone should spend some time, otherwise we won't get the environment. So to mitigate this problem, you need to find a solution in such a way, create a particular user story, because it will serve as a placeholder for you to capture the tasks which are relevant to this. So what are the environment related details, who should work, who will be working on the environment creation, who should provide access on that, who should deploy the application, all those things. This is one-time activity. It may not happen every sprint, but one-time activity.
What I understand here is, let's say during the refinement session, so let's say a team worked on user story A. So the team found some risk or dependency and they created. And when we are going to pick that story for the as per the prioritization, but the dependency is still there. But if that is committed, let's say this dependency will be over on second or third day of the sprint. In that case, should we move that story to the current sprint by as a commitment or with that dependency or
No,
not?
you cannot, right? Because definition of ready itself you are unable to meet, right?
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So the next topic is related to what is the characteristic features that we are expecting in a product backlog. So your product backlog item, PBIs, product backlog items are nothing but the work items. It can be a user story, defect, anything, right? Whatever we have seen in the earlier slide. They should be very much detailed. It should not be like some information, but only few people can understand, the rest all cannot understand. That's not the case. It should be. It should have thorough details captured as part of that, which is called as your acceptance criteria or anything that we use, but it should be having detailed set of information in the work item. Second one is estimated. One is team level estimation, and then second one is product level estimation. So team level estimation is your team will be giving user story points or maybe t-shirt sizing or using Fibonacci series, some way of representation, right? Anything related to user story points, they will be doing at the team level for the work items. But you should also be in a position to understand at the product level, what is this estimate for this overall feature? For example, in WhatsApp, the initial example only I'm using, if it's a messenger system or if it's a calling functionality, for calling functionality, what is the estimate that we may be in need of? Or is this first of all estimatable? Or do we have any kind of open points? So it should be in a position at every level, the work item should be in a position to estimate. Third one is, it's not a static information. It will be keep on evolving. Like for example, initially you may not be aware of the non-functional requirements at all, but in your backlog refinement meeting, your team is keep on pushing the questions like what is the maximum set of users that can utilize at the same time the system, and what is the maximum load it can handle. All those things are coming under the non-functional things, which will be keep on evolving during your backlog refinement meeting. And sometimes during the implementation also, with the test cases what a tester will be writing, your user story will still get evolved. So there should be always a room for evolvement. It is not like, okay, I made it static and there is no option to change it at all. It's written, once written, it's written. No, it should not be like that. It should allow people to add anything at any moment of time. So there is always an option for information to be getting emerged. Next one, it should be in a position to be prioritized. So specifically, I put different colors. The reason is, in your product backlog itself, every piece should be captured in such a way according to the priority. How I will set the priority? Just go to our second slide we talked about. Our product roadmap will give the information about the release details to your product backlog, right? This release information will help us to prioritize. Oh my God, this is version 1.0. So let me put it at the top because I need to clear this off and share it to the team so the team will be able to develop it. Next piece of information, which is version 2.0, that should come under the second piece. That should be taken into the next level once version 1.0 things are taken care. So this is the order you should be placing it. So initially it will be pushed as one shot and every information is available as raw in the product backlog. But you should map the reality of the release details with the help of your product roadmap into the product backlog, so that you will be knowing, okay, these all are the items for version 1.0, these are the items for version 2.0. According to that, you should cluster it and you should prioritize it. Okay. Now, this is one interesting topic. Maybe this itself may take some time. Maybe we may extend the session also a little bit more. Sorry for that. I think a good set of questions. It's good learning. So let's try to cover up the details as much as we can in the session. There is something called as backlog health. Okay? We know that all the work items we are keep on adding, but there is something called as backlog health we need to really take care of. Okay, what is backlog health? For that, we should understand certain terminologies called velocity. What is velocity? Okay. Now, in a sprint, team is committing 30 story points. They may be able to achieve it, they may not be able to achieve it, or they may achieve more than 30 also. 3 situations. One is achieving less than what we have committed, achieving more than what we have committed, or exactly achieving what we have committed. Will this be the same pattern every time? No, right? See, today I'm so hungry, I may be eating 2 idlis, 3 idlis. Tomorrow I may be eating only 1 idli. Next day I'm not so hungry, I may be eating only half idli. It's like depends on the appetite, depends on the mood, depends on the time. The level will change, right? Or the number of idlis what I'm consuming is different, right? Similar way, depends on the work what we are doing, depends on the blockers that we have seen, depends on the capacity changes that happened in the team, depends on the scope creep that happened in the sprint level. You may or may not be able to achieve what you have committed. If you are achieving what you have committed, it's well and good, like 30 out of 30. But if you are unable to, there are situations which will happen, right? You people would have seen that kind of situations in your sprint execution also. Sometimes you may not be able to achieve what you have actually committed for. Now, let's try to understand it one level up. So what we will do, velocity is something, it should be calculated as an average, not from one instance. The reason is, as I mentioned, depends on my appetite level, the way the number of idlis I consume is going to change, right? Similar way, every sprint, the story point achievement by the team is also going to change. So one sprint it may be 50, another sprint it may be 30, another sprint it may be 20, another sprint it may be 40. It's maybe like that. So what we will do for the last 3 sprints or last 5 sprints, you should be calculating the average velocity. Summation of all the 4 sprint achieved story points divided by the number of sprints that you have used. Now you will get the average velocity. This will give me, okay, I'm not like one day eating one idli, two idli. So in general, Selvi can have 2 idlis on an overall as an average. So now this average velocity we calculated. Now what we need to do is we need to ensure in our product backlog, the average velocity, whatever we have achieved, right? It should be some value related to this average velocity should be available in your product backlog. What is that some value all about? Let's talk about backlog refinement. Then we will get to know what is this. Now you got the concept of average velocity. So let this value be there. Now let's try to understand there is something called as backlog refinement. What is backlog refinement? What we will do in backlog refinement? We will pick up the product backlog items which are with high priority, and we will try to discuss those things in our backlog refinement meeting with the team members, and team members will be asking questions, product owner will be, and we will try to understand what is the whole functionality that we are trying to achieve. This is all the things that will will be keep going in the backlog refinement meeting. And as an outcome of this meeting, what we are expecting, we should ensure that we are able to estimate that particular work item. And if there are any dependencies, we should capture it. And if the dependency is actually a blocker to estimate it, we should not block it until the dependency is resolved. And if the dependency is not a blocker for the estimation, we should capture it and ensure who is the action owner and the target closure date for the dependency, so that before we get into the actual sprint backlog point, which is nothing but your DOR should be met, right? For that, you should clear this dependency. So you should manage all these things separately as part of backlog refinement. Now what will happen is, now we have the average velocity. Now we know what happens in the backlog refinement meeting. So generally when we put the question, how many hours you spend on backlog refinement meeting, we always tend to say that every week 1 hour we will spend. Is that really required? Is the first question. Is that enough? Is the second question. Okay, so now how to get, as a Scrum Master or a product owner, we should know how many hours are really required for the backlog refinement meeting, and what is our target goal to achieve at least minimum story points to be estimated. Because backlog refinement meetings outcome is nothing but getting the story points which are estimated for the work items, right? Now, let's get into some level of examples, okay? Let's consider your average velocity of your team is 20 story points, okay? And in your product backlog, you have done some backlog refinement meeting and you have achieved 18 story points in your backlog, which means in your backlog refinement meeting, you have estimated some work items which yielded you 18 story points. In this situation, even it is not even matching the average velocity, right? It is less than that. This means you are very much lagging. Why actually we always tend to say that your backlog should be healthy? Here the backlog is not healthy, right? Because it is less than average velocity. I'll put the indicator at the end so that you'll get to know what I'm talking is health. But here, try to understand average velocity is 20 and you have only achieved 18 story points as the refinement so far as an estimate, which is less. That means you need more refinement meetings so that you can reach some level. What is that some level? We'll get to know. This is one condition, okay? Just try to remember that. Second condition is your average velocity is 20. Your team also achieved just 20. It is just actually, you know that you have achieved the average velocity, not more than that. Which is a good scenario, not a good scenario, or not even a good scenario, it's just a scenario. Let me put a question, why I'm keep on stressing average velocity should be matching with this, that and all. Let me put that and then go to third example. Why at least a certain backlog items or the product PBIs should be estimated and it should be healthy is, let's take a scenario. This month is actually the December month. We have a lot of holidays and many people go on for vacation. Even if you plan a backlog refinement meeting, the participation will be very less. Even if you record the session, it may not be so productive. The reason being, there will not be so much questions coming up and you cannot estimate it properly. right? So you cannot have some refinement meetings. But by the time we get into January, we will automatically run our shows as usual, right? Not because there were no refinement meetings happened in December, we will take some 1 week off and we will do only refinement. That is not the situation. We will do sprints as usual. But what will happen? We will not have adequate product backlog items which are already refined in our backlog. That means what is the situation? Your sprint you are going to start, but you don't know what you are going to work. You have no product backlog items which are ready to be available with estimate and which are not ready to be picked up as sprint backlog item. Then this is a real problem, right? So what is the issue here? We have not planned well with a good healthy product backlog. We are always depending on, okay, next week sprint means this week only I will do refinement. That is where the problem comes. If unexpectedly team is off, or you got into a release and your management is saying, hey, please spend more time on execution of the sprint rather than other meetings, try to avoid. And as a Scrum Master, you are thinking your team's capacity is really required for the sprint execution. Even though this is also important, but you cannot focus more here because team is completely occupied in the work. Now you need to drop your backlog refinement, but you are actually going to start from Monday your new sprint, but you don't have items at all. So for these kind of situations, you should have a healthy backlog. What is the advantage of it? You are not going to have a situation, okay, Monday sprint is starting, this Wednesday only I will sit and do refinement. That is not the good case. You already have enough and more items in your product backlog where people are aware of what is the detail they need to implement. They have estimated it also, and there are no dependencies, and it's DOR matching with the checklist. Your DOR is met. In this case, you are free to start your sprint backlog with all these items. So it is always necessary that you should have a healthy product backlog, which means your healthy product backlog definition is nothing but your team is aware of what they are going to work with the priority order of execution, and they know all the details, they have estimated it. So at least you need 20 story points for your sprint because that is your average team's velocity, right? So at least you should need 20. Then you no need to worry really about what is going to happen in next sprint because you have enough at your backlog, which is already ready. If you don't have the 20 in our first example, which is 18, but your team is at least should have 20 story points because that is their average. But you are already lagging with 2 story points. You don't have that many product backlog items which are ready. So that is the poor product backlog, which doesn't have good enough strength, which demands more and more refinement meetings. Here as well, situation is not so good. The reason is still there are chances because if you are missing again, there is a chance that in one sprint you are unable to do the refinement, then you will go back to example one situation in this scenario also, right? So now comes the third situation where average velocity is much more better than already like 1.5 you have, right? So in this situation, you have much better product backlog health than the previous one, so that you can actually think of how to reduce your refinement meetings. Not reduce means you cannot drop off meetings, but at least you are in a good state, right? Now, this is what as a whole I'm talking. Let me put it in a nutshell. Maybe many people are not calculating this. Maybe it's a good practice as a Scrum Master, calculating this and sharing with your product management team and especially your product owner to be aware of this, so that you both can facilitate and understand the need of the backlog refinement meetings and plan it as part of your upcoming sprints. Okay. If it is less than 50, it is not a good scenario. So every time you share your sprint closure report or the KPIs related to or the metrics, generally the metrics that you share at the end, please use one of the metrics as product backlog health indicator, where you stand. If it is less than 50, it is not at all good. If it is 50 and less than this is not any guideline. This you can set for your own. Like you can have only 3 colors, 3 legends and use it like one maybe red, yellow and green. And you can have 4 also, 5 also, depends on that. But please ensure for every color, what is the action item that you are planning. If it is less than 50, I'm going to increase my refinement meetings by double. Or if it is the second case, like greater than 50 and less than 80, I'm going to extra spend some more hours. And if it is 80 to 100, what is the option or action I'm going to take? You need to be clear with that. So the nutshell is, you have more number of product items in your product backlog, right? You have enough of work items in your product backlog. But as per the priority, what should be taken care, that will be at the top. That should come for your backlog refinement meeting. Team will understand that and give their estimate. You should always ensure it should be greater than your average velocity. If it is not greater than your average velocity, the problem is that you will not be able to match the upcoming sprints. If there is a need of dropping any one of the backlog refinement meeting because of your team's unavailability or your release. So I think hopefully, yes.
Sorry for interrupt. So in that case, we can say that by creating this backlog health indicator, we make an agreement with the team whether we will go for a 1 sprint healthy backlog, 1.5 or 2 sprint healthy backlog.
Yes, in SAFe, actually in Scaled Agile, there is a concept of we will ensure if it is a 3 sprints PI, we will be ensuring we have all the 3 sprints. If, for example, 1 sprint's average velocity is 20, then it is 20 into 3 sprints.
3 or 4, whatever.
Yeah, if it is 3, if it is then 60. So we should have 60 story points already estimated in our product backlog. Then we say that it is a healthy backlog. If it is less than that, we need to plan extra backlog refinement meetings, because that's the only way to increase our backlog health, right?
Yeah, so we should make an agreement with the team, and accordingly we will create the session in the sprint.
Yes, this should be taken as part of your retrospective meeting, and team should go through this and they should know this is the detail. That's the whole idea of sharing this as the metric at the end of the sprint, so that your management team also is aware that it's not a good scenario to have a poor backlog health. So we should be spending extra time in the upcoming sprint to strengthen our backlog with the help of backlog refinement meeting. So when you plan the sprint planning, you should be taking this action also as one of the point to be considered.
Okay, so in that case, we can discuss with the team that we have a 1 or 2 sprints healthy backlog should be there, and accordingly we can discuss twice a week how we can go for this refinement and how we can at least make a product backlog healthy for at least 2 sprints, upcoming 2 sprints.
Yes,
okay.
And I will also talk about backlog refinement session, how much time is really required. This is one way of calculating with the story points that we are actually in a weaker state with the product backlog health. So we may need to plan backlog refinement. But what is the outcome of the backlog refinement and how to plan how many hours are really required? I'll take it as a separate session as backlog refinement meeting and the relevant metrics. I don't want to bring that topic here, but there is also a strategy on how many hours really required. That also a Scrum Master should be in a position to calculate it. We should not say that,
but I think as per Scrum Guide, it should not more than 10%.
Yeah, but in reality, we need to see what, because it depends on the maturity of the team also, right, Narendra? Yeah, there is a guideline. I understand there is a guideline, but it depends on the team, because maybe your team is in a very beginning state. They may
go for more than that.
Yeah, so we should have some metric, right? Which I will be covering as part of the backlog refinement. There also we will be touching this point as well, but try to connect these dots. What is the velocity, average velocity of your team, and what is your backlog health that is required? And if it is less, what is the option that you need to take care? So this should be taken care by the Scrum Master, and it should be aligned with your product management team with the help of your product owner, so that we will be able to take it in a better way. Okay. So let me check with everyone. Is that fine to have maybe another 10 minutes? Madhi?
Fine.
Yes, no problem. Yeah.
For me as well.
Okay. Thank you. So let's talk about now. We know what is product backlog, how are we doing the refinement, and how are we ensure that we are having a healthy product backlog. All these things we have discussed. Now we came to the topic of sprint backlog. So sprint backlog is nothing but a subset of product backlog. It is just a dynamic one which gets created on the day one of the sprint and gets dissolved on the last day of the sprint. Whatever the items that are completed, what are the items that are achieved on the sprint will go as a closure state, which the state is called closed to the product backlog, and which all are not achieved will go to the product backlog with the state called open or in progress, depends on the system, whatever you are using. So now, when creating this sprint backlog, we know that it is a subset. On what basis this subset is derived or selected or created? Why I put the word selected is, it is just a picking of the items from the product backlog, right? We create a sprint backlog, but it is basically done by picking the items from the product backlog. How are we picking? There are some key things that we need to remember. One is priority. Again, I'm coming to the same point. Maybe this is third or fourth time we are repeating the same statement. Again, your product roadmap has your release details, which is passed to your product backlog. That product backlog items are mapped with your release information, and that will set your priority. Your actually the urgency of the item to be moved to the production, that priority will be set based on the release details as well. So first key factor is your priority. Second one is your available capacity of the team. Even though I want to achieve 10 to 15 items, but I have a team of only 4 people, they can do only limited items, right? So there comes the capacity, available capacity, which is nothing but whether your team is available for all the days, any holiday, any holidays are there, or any leave or training plans from them. So that capacity is also required. In addition, when you say capacity, you will always align with your velocity of the team as well, right? Even though capacity is available, but see, it's all about like, you are giving me 10 idlis, but as 10 idlis are available, I have the capacity to only eat 3, right? And my average is like 3 to 4, that much only I can have, means you can expect I can eat only 3 to 4. As there are 10, I cannot have 10, right? So that is all about average velocity and capacity. So that also is a major thing when you are picking the item from product backlog to sprint backlog. And the next one is meeting DOR. Narinder put a question sometime back. I have a dependency still open. Can I use this item as my sprint backlog item? Then there is no point of DOR. Definition of ready should be met so that you can use those items which are meeting this DOR will become a part of your sprint backlog. And you should always have a goal. Okay, it's like, okay, developing the call functionality, audio call functionality for messenger system. Something like that should be your goal. So you should align to that goal. It may be single goal or multiple goals as well, but you should align to that goal when you are making these things part of the sprint. Okay. So when you are creating a sprint backlog, the sprint backlog is nothing but a small piece of what you have in your product backlog. So this will be created on day one of the sprint in the sprint planning meeting with the factors that should be considered, or priority, the available capacity, which is also aligned with your average velocity of the team. Then what are the items that are meeting the definition of ready checklist, and what is your sprint goal. Aligning to all these things, you will be creating the sprint backlog. At the last day of the sprint, whether you achieved it or not, it doesn't matter. If it is achieved, these items will go back to the product backlog with the status called closed or done. If it is not achieved, again, the same items will go back to the product backlog with the status called in progress or open. And again, in the next sprint, depends on the priority, the same half-cooked items that what we have in open and in progress, right? They may also be considered in the future. That depends on the priority of the upcoming sprint. So this is all about the sprint backlog. Now, so sprint backlog, when we pick it up, my product owner is saying like, hey, 10 user stories, just keep on adding those 10 user stories and deliver that. That's it. Is that a good scenario? Not at all a good scenario. First thing, if you have 100% capacity in your team, you should not block all the 100% for your sprint backlog deliverable, which means you should not plan neck to neck calls anytime. You should always plan for 90% because Agile allows changes, right? It is also all about you should be open for accepting any new changes that is coming, but the scope creep should not be too much. It should be balanced, but at the same time, you should really think what is the value that we are going to get or not get out of the new item that we are planning. So it is always good, depends on your team's maturity, plan it 80 to 90%. Keep the 10 to 15% buffer always. Okay, that is one thing. Second thing, it should be a combination of everything. Always remember the Indian meal that we usually have. It comprises of everything, right? Vegetable, rice, dal, chapati, curd, milk, everything. Some of the sweet, everything will be there, right? Similar way, a sprint backlog also should be available. You should ensure your team's 50% items are planned for your technical depths. What is the benefit out of that? Your product owner may not be so interested, because even though it is giving some value of next level of stability in your system. I gave one example, right? Your search functionality is always giving bugs. As a Scrum Master, you should always take the help from your architect and the product owner and say that this should be taken as part of our technical depth, and 50% of team capacity should go for this. The reason is, if we invest this time now, we are going to save so much time. Whenever there is a regression test is happening, the search functionality is always failing. So we need to somewhere spend our time and stabilize that piece of the code, right? So that refactoring is going to be taken care as part of this technical depth. And the next 10% is going to be with defects. Usually what we will do, we will be always focusing on developing new functionalities, new implementation, everything. But we forget something called as there is a huge set of defects that have been raised. So what happens here? We need to take care of these defects, right? So 10% of your team's capacity you should manage with the help of your for the defect fixing. And 5% you should invest for your exploratory work, some new discovery items, some new ideas, all those things your team should be working on 5%. So now your backlog is a fulfilled backlog of the combination of everything, right? It is not only focusing on always working on new features. What will happen if I'm not at all looking into the defects? One fine day, there is a release in next month. One whole sprint, my team will be working only on defects. What is the actual business value we are delivering? What is the goal? Fixing the defect cannot be a goal, right? Because defect itself is coming because of the quality issue. It's not an actual deliverable. It is a quality issue that happened. Whatever the delivered items that we have taken care already in our previous sprints. So how can we say that is a business value? It cannot be a business value. But at the same time, I need to fix the defects. Otherwise, I cannot get a sign off for my release from my verification team. So what will happen now? So we need to balance in every sprint backlog, a percentage to be allotted for every item like this, right? So that we will be having a combination of all the things in the sprint backlog, where you have a new feature development going on, which is a new functionality, you are fixing the defects, you are also strengthening and stabilizing your code where all the places that you have a gap in technical aspect, and you are also putting some effort to identify some new ideas, new discoveries which are related to your product, which can become a potential item as a user story or new functionality in the upcoming sprint. So this one you should really take care as a Scrum Master. When the sprint backlog is getting full, it's a combination of all these things. And always remember, do not commit for 100%, because we should also be in a position to accept the changes, because that is also one important thing when we are using Agile methodology. So always keep some buffer, keep some space for the new things to be getting into picture, right? Okay, I think that's all we have. We have many other topics that can be picked up from the session that what we had today, which we will be planning in our upcoming sessions. So any questions from anyone?
I don't have any question as such. Only thing I just wanted to understand if we have the recordings of the previous sessions so that we can look into it. Because first session
we recently started recording, like we don't have all those sessions. Maybe a couple of sessions we have, we can go to the, I will send you the link where it has couple of recordings.
All right, sure. And one more thing is, I wanted to understand the agile other methodologies also, at least the differences, like we have SAFe, Lean, XP. So I just need a brief session on explaining all these different scenarios. Will that be possible?
I will check with the team and get back to you on this.
All right.
Hi, Sylvie.
Hey, hi, Kartikeya.
I have one question. The user story, like you said, a feature can have done under one single user story, or it could be many user stories, right? Not too many,
Yeah,
but more.
correct. A feature will be a placeholder to have multiple user stories, but as you rightly mentioned, it should not be too many. Otherwise, it will be monitoring also, it will be a problem. Then actually there is a flaw that actually there are multiple features that we are trying to collate it. So we may need to break it somewhere. So a feature should be containing some user stories, but not too many. Yes.
But sometimes it can be done under one single user story if the feature itself is in a very small in nature.
Yes, exactly. It can also happen in such a way that there will be only one user story, but for tracking purpose, we would have made a feature. Maybe under that feature, there will be only one user story also. Yeah, there are situations like that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, hi Selvi, it's Krishna here.
Yeah, Krishna.
Can the sprint goal change during the course of the sprint?
We generally don't encourage that, Krishna. Like maybe some of the product backlog items that we are working, maybe one user story or two user story can go back to the backlog and something else may get into priority and we may be working on that. But as a whole, changing the sprint goal is not a advisable one, because the reason is when we say we are changing the goal of the sprint, that means 90 to 80% of your sprint backlog also may change, right? Because your sprint goal is aligned with all the items that you have picked for the sprint backlog, or in the other way, your sprint backlog is created in such a way it is aligned to your sprint goal. So when we say that we are changing the sprint goal, means we are going to change most of the items in the sprint backlog, which is not a good scenario. So in that way, it is not advisable to change the goal until and unless if it becomes completely obsolete or it's not going to be a part of the system. In that way, yeah, it is okay to manage it, but otherwise it's not a good idea.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Okay, I think if no other questions, thanks everyone for joining. Thank you for taking out your time in the session.
Thank you so much, Selvi, for the
Thank you
session.
very much, Selvi. It was
Thank
very
you.
good.
Thanks everyone. Thank you.
Thank
See
you
in
so
the next
much.
session.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.